Hey guys, if you haven't watched part 1 yet, make sure to do that first. I will put it in the cards right there and in the description box below. Talking about incarcerated people, there's always going to be a stigma on them, which like sucks, right? So like what can we do as people who have never been incarcerated before, like keep in mind, or like I think this is not just applicable for incarcerated people, but like in life in general.
For sure. So one book that I wanted to recommend is Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson, and he is a lawyer and the founder of something called the Equal Justice Initiative. And in his book, he says each person is more than the worst thing that they've ever done. If you think about your own life and maybe you say like, I haven't committed a crime, like I haven't done something as egregious as the people who are behind those walls, well, while that might be true, in order to understand stigma, you can think about being defined by the worst thing that you've ever done. And that being some sort of like scarlet letter on you, or something that everybody knows about, or something that employers ask you to disclose, or that you have to mark on an application to a university. And I think that sort of illuminates how even when folks do their time and realize the consequences of their actions, they still carry this indelible mar on their being because of the stigmatization of having been incarcerated. And so we don't let people move on from this singular action, and I think that's not fair to reduce people in that way.
I should send you that Tim Ferriss podcast. So I sent her a sex worker one, but there was also one about working with incarcerated people that I sent you.
No, I really want to listen to that. And everyone has the power to get involved with things like criminal justice reform. Even if, like, we all need to choose like what we're called to do in our lives, and not everybody's going to be called to work in criminal justice reform, but as active citizens, we can be up to date on what sort of policy initiatives we can implement to make the world better for.
How do you stay updated on policies? Because there's so many.
So there are two websites that I really like. One is called the Vera Institute, and the other is called the Marshall Project, and they specifically focus on criminal justice reform. I'd also look into like local organizations that are working on criminal justice reform or prison abolition. I think for a lot of people, prison abolition sounds super extreme, but I would say that once you learn more about the criminal justice system, prison abolition might not seem so extreme because the brokenness is so deep and pervasive. But yeah, so getting connected with those organizations can help you stay up to date.
Here is a big question, which I've posed to one of my other friends, but his response was like, there's just too much brokenness in the prison reform, that it's just like too hard to reform. I refuse to believe that. I get that it's really hard to reform. If you had to start somewhere, or like the big things that should be taken out of how we deal with prison, where would you start?
So I think, so first I just wanted to respond to your point about like this person's like cynicism about like it can't be reformed, and then you saying like, well, no, like we can tackle this. I wonder if his point, and maybe it wasn't this radical, that like it's so broken that we can't reform it, we have to transform it, and so the way the system exists now, it can't stand, and so we have to build something totally new. I don't know if that was his point, but that's what I tend to think.
That's how I would think of it. Like if it's so broken that we can't do anything about it, let's build a new one.
Which is more difficult to do than, easier said than done. So I think the first thing to do is I think first of all, I guess to preface all this, we should follow the lead of formerly incarcerated people and people directly impacted by the criminal justice system in terms of what policy initiatives need to be implemented. So I can't say that I can trace what I'm about to say back to those folks directly, but there are things that I've gleaned from the short time working at this organization and having been a volunteer for this organization in the past. And these are not the views of my organization. Let me also say that, right? These are my own individual views. So I think we need to lower the prison and jail population. So that means having alternatives to incarceration and what are called diversion programs. So when you get to the point of I'm actually not sure at what point in the process this happens. It could happen possibly before a person is charged with a crime, or it could happen at the time of sentencing. But instead of being incarcerated, you get diverted to a mental health program, to a rehabilitation center, to anger management programs, to getting education, right? If you're committing a crime of poverty, then maybe it's that you need to get more education so that you would be eligible to have a job that pays better, or even have access to a swath of jobs that are now not within your reach because you don't have a degree.
Yeah.
So diversion can mean a bunch of different things. It can also mean like mental health court, so determining like, was your crime a result of some sort of a mental instability or a mental health issue. That is one way to lower the number of people that are on the inside, which then will eventually lead to us having to close these facilities. Because if we don't have enough people in the number of beds that they have, then there won't be money that is flowing to these facilities to keep them open. Yeah. So, right, for each individual that's incarcerated, the state is funneling usually an average of like $45,000 a year.
For one person?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
So, yeah, from a really practical perspective, incarceration is hella expensive.
Yeah.
And for a state university, you could send someone to college for $45,000 a year. And college would put somebody on a drastically different life path than having had a criminal record. Lowering the number of people who are incarcerated in order to eventually shut down facilities, I think, is one of the first steps in sort of dismantling the system and creating these alternative responses to deviant and challenging behavior. When I was in a classroom management class, when I was doing my education minor, there was one sort of philosopher of behavior who said all behavior can be categorized as, or challenging behavior can be categorized as an unmet need or a lagging skill. So imagine if we sort of identified what skills people are lacking in order to act differently in the world, or what resources they're lacking in order to act differently in the world, and we're able to fulfill those. I think we'd see a huge reduction in crime. It's a little oversimplified, but I think it's a helpful way of viewing things.
I agree. Like, it's always easier to think about the simplified and then add in
more nuance, yeah.
The more nuance. That's really interesting. Wow. But see, like, with that conversation, it comes with the whole, like, our government.
Yeah. One of my blind spots is, like, not considering, like, the opinions of, like, victims and survivors of crime.
Okay.
So, I think some people do want to see perpetrators just be punished.
Yeah.
And I understand that want, but I think we need to suppress the tendency in us to be vengeful.
Yes.
And move to a deeper understanding of why people act in these ways.
Yeah. I was listening to this other, was it a podcast? It might be another, I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Podcasts are great.
But it was about this woman, she makes YouTube videos, I think. Mm-hmm. And she does talk about her political views, as she leans more liberal.
Okay.
And so, obviously, if you lean more liberal, a lot of the, super conservative people will attack you for being super liberal.
And vice versa.
Yeah. And so, what she did was she actually reached out to some of these people who were shitting on her and say, like, hey, can we have a discussion?
I think I heard about this, actually, yeah. Who's it called?
I forget her name, but it's a girl.
Okay.
And so, she actually did this with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And one of her opponents ended up being her boyfriend.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
She was able to date somebody with radically different political views? That's impressive.
And what she was saying how, like, he wasn't as extreme as he comes off as.
Interesting.
So I'm just wondering, like, yes, it is possible to have a conversation with somebody who disagrees on everything that you believe in.
Yeah.
How can we do that on a wider scale and have it be safe?
I certainly want to believe that it's possible, but I think one of the difficulties with that is that, like, there are certain political subjects, like, dehumanize someone in the way that somebody with the belief that people who immigrate to this country are rapists and drug dealers and all these other negative things impact somebody's sense of being seen as a human. I guess I don't know how to deal with that in those dialogues. When somebody's political beliefs undermines your humanity.
Yeah.
Can there be a safe dialogue when the other person doesn't view you as a human being?
Does that person not view you as a human being because they have had interactions with, your race or, like, yourself in general? Or is it because of that smog that we talked about? Like, these are the stereotypes and they just believe it?
That's a great question. I would want to know where those beliefs come from. That is something that is genuinely interesting to me. and that understanding the antecedents of people's beliefs is where empathy comes from and the opportunity for empathy comes from. Because on face, you calling somebody that's an immigrant to this country and illegal dehumanizes them.
Yeah.
But why do you believe that? And I think that that's like the most important question to answer. But I don't want to minimize the toll that it could take on a person directly affected by that belief to hear the reasoning for that person's belief. Because no matter what the reason is, that person's belief has this collateral impact on this person's life and safety and security. So that's what I'm like. I think the dialogue can be super productive.
Yeah.
But there are these other questions that I have that I'm not sure how to answer around, like, protecting the people involved in the dialogue. I think the rest of the world is pretty concerned for us as well. Like, I remember being in Spain on the day after the election and having Spaniards tell me, like, I'm worried. Like, I'm scared for you, and I'm scared for us. I think there's a step before dialogue that makes us better partners in dialogue, and that's self-education. Even though, like, we're all individuals, we're also, like, historical beings that are affected by our own life story as well as, like, the history of this country and, like, the history of our families. And if people don't know the racial history of the United States, then are they going to be fully ready to hear the experiences of a black person?
Yeah.
And so, can I be a good partner in dialogue without having educated myself first with the information that I need in order to be empathetic, in order to be fully ready to receive what this person has to say?
That's a very good point.
Because I don't think people are ready to necessarily believe other people's life experiences on face. Like, they're hopefully not going to be, like, mean to them and tell them that it's untrue, but their stereotypes and biases are going to persist unless they're able to corroborate this one individual experience with a larger truth.
Yeah.
So, people need to open some books. Yeah. I don't mean to sound patronizing, but educating yourself is huge. So.
Yeah. Oh, this one, which is a question from Tim Ferriss, actually.
Oh, okay.
If you had a billboard, where you could write one message on it, what would it say?
So I did think about this a little bit, and my message would be this quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. And can I read it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely struggled with this question because I don't have, like, one guiding life principle that I'm like, I want everyone to know this. But this is a quote that has helped recenter me, and I'll elaborate on why I think it's important after I read it. To laugh often and love much, to win the respect of intelligent persons and the affection of children, to earn the approbation of honest citizens and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to give of oneself, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to have played and laughed with enthusiasm and sung with exultation, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. This is, like, one of my favorite quotes because I think that there are so many different ideas of success in the world, and success is often synonymous with power and money, and to remember that success can be these seemingly smaller, but I think actually hugely consequential acts of raising children, of creating a garden, of living life in a way that you are present to all of your emotions such that you can sing with exaltation, like, that feels like a life well lived.
Yeah.
And I also love the theme of, like, of giving of oneself, that my life is worth something inherently, but also because of my interconnectedness to other people, and my ability to reduce human suffering, and to be in relationship and community with other people.
What kind of gift giver are you?
I like to spend a lot of time, like, wandering around, and if something reminds me of someone, then that's when I want to give it to them. And I like adding little notes. Like, I want things to be, like, sort of witty and heartfelt. I'm trying to think of an example of this, but we sent myself and my other friend sent her friend a care package from Boston, and so we got her, like, the granola that she always ate at this one coffee shop and a mug from another coffee shop, and, like, added all these little notes. So I like hodgepodge gifts that have a really, like, heartfelt
meaning.
Yeah.
Do you have, like, a daily routine?
I don't have a strict daily routine. I was just thinking about this, like, what are the things I do every day? One of the things one of my habits is every morning when I wake up while I'm getting ready, I listen to NPR. So I feel like informed and also helps wake me up. And now that I've started training, like I go to the gym 5 out of 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So that feels good. But yeah, other than that, I know other people have like, I write in my journal every day, or like I drink 24 ounces of water before I go to work. I don't do any of those things. I wish I had a better routine.
How's training going?
Pretty well overall. I think one of my biggest fears in like setting a goal is that you won't achieve it, right? Yeah. Or that you don't have like the self-discipline to maintain it.
Yeah.
And then another fear has been like, what if I get some sort of injury? Because in my past running life, like I've gotten stress fractures or just like pulled a muscle. And
stress fractures? That's a real thing?
It's a real thing. It's like when you overuse something.
Damn, okay.
Yeah, which really only comes from when you build up like your mileage too fast. So this was like before I really knew about how to train well.
Okay.
So yeah, those have been like my dual worries. But so far I've been able to stick to my schedule. I've missed 2 runs out of probably like 25 runs, so I feel like that's a good
That's not bad.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. And then you're running in May.
Yes.
Did you already sign up for
it? I didn't sign up for one. I'm still deliberating which marathon I should do. There's one in Pittsburgh in May that I think I want. Because I don't want, like, there's some like super no-name marathons. Like I found one in Martha's Vineyard, which sounds like beautiful, but it's probably going to be pretty small.
Yeah.
Versus one in like a major city. And I think hopefully after I have one under my belt, I would get more confidence to like try to qualify for Boston or like raise money to do the Boston Marathon. But
that would be so cool.
That would be so cool. People keep asking me if I'm going to do Boston. I was like,
in the
not
future.
the first time around. Yeah, right. One thing at a time.
I'm hoping my sister like ends up doing the Boston one day.
Okay.
Because she's also a marathoner.
Cool. Has she done marathons before?
Yeah, so she does the ones like all up on the West Coast.
Nice.
Like San Diego, Disneyland.
Amazing.
Had one. She did one in San Francisco, which I thought is crazy because you have all those hills.
Yeah. You have to train with hills in order to do that, which most of my running is pretty flat. So, yeah.
I walk up a hill and I'm exhausted. So, like, I've tried running outside before. I just can't get myself to do it. I hate myself so much.
Like, you just don't like running outside? Like, would you rather run on a treadmill or you just don't like running?
I would rather run on a treadmill. If I don't have to run at all, I don't have to.
Cool. Well, that's fine. If you each have our own exercise or no exercise that we like. You know, no judgment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Oh, yeah.
Are you a coffee or a tea person?
I'm a coffee person.
Okay.
But I make shit coffee.
Okay.
When I make my own coffee, even if it's like filter, I put a dabble of milk, but I never know what the measurement is.
Sure.
I just put enough until the coffee turns
it's
like a
certain
little
color. Yeah, exactly. That's how most people do it. Just eyeball it. Yeah.
It tastes like shit.
Oh.
But it works.
Sure. I mean,
I guess.
Yeah. I feel like if you're doing it for the caffeine, then you'll drink whatever. If you're doing it for like the taste, then it can be super disappointing to have shitty coffee. But yeah.
And this is why I want to do like cooking with you, because just like my coffee making skills, my food making skills is like average.
Well, it's good to know what you want to work on. So.
So back to you.
Yeah.
What is something that you want to work on?
Yeah. So as I was telling you before, I feel like my time management is not the best.
Mm-hmm.
That I figured out like time management in my professional life mostly, and like, can like turn on that skill in the workplace. But have you ever taken a Myers-Briggs personality test? Okay. Well, the last letter, which is perceiving versus judging.
Are you P?
I'm P. Yeah. Perceiver is like really like possibility, the like open-endedness, spontaneity. I don't like when my options are narrowed. So in that sense, it's energizing for me to like wake up and not have a plan for the day, but then that means I don't necessarily get everything done that I want to do.
Yeah.
So while I want to like just like embrace who I am, I also see like the pitfalls of it.
Yeah.
And want to try to be like a little bit more disciplined so I can get everything done. Yeah. Other than that, I'm like super out of touch with like pop culture, and Sheena like puts me to shame when it comes to like
me too
movies, TV shows, music. She's like, what type of music do you like? I'm like, I listen to like the Spotify Discover playlist. Like I can't really tell you like artists. I listen to like single songs from albums. Like,
yeah.
So yeah.
Wait, pull up your Spotify right now. We could do a comparison. I think there's a thing where it's like the last things you played. What is your last 5?
Okay. So this is reflective of the music I listen to when I run. I just want to say that. Okay. So Dua Lipa.
Oh, I love her.
Okay, yeah, so great. Black Panther album by Kendrick Lamar.
That's also a great one.
Yep. Camila Cabello. Halsey, just the Him and I song.
Oh, that's a good song.
And then Taylor Swift, the Reputation album.
Is that the latest one?
Yeah, latest one.
Do you like it?
It's like good pop music.
Yeah.
I like listen to pop and hip hop when I run because I need something with like a really like strong bass and something that's like energizing. But when I'm just like around the house, I listen to like folk. Yeah, like indie. So.
Yeah, so that's really, you just ran to that.
Yeah, it's really, that's what it's reflective of. What are your last 5?
My last 5, I was listening to Pop Rising, the playlist, and there's a song on there that I really enjoyed. It's, Marshmello and Anne Marie. It's called Friends. Okay. And then there's this Taiwanese artist, his name is Jam Xiao. Mm-hmm. New Music Friday, which I'm not loving lately. I just feel like music lately is just not that good.
Yeah, I don't really listen to pop music, so except when I'm running.
Yeah. And then I had 2 workout playlists going with the Beast Mode one and then Hit 2018.
Okay, nice.
I also like the beats when I'm exercising.
Something. I also listen to Viva Latino a lot. I really like Spanish music.
I think after Sheena was like, Julian, you need to get on to Viva Latino, I started listening to it and I was like,
yep, reggaeton and all those different things. Yeah.
I love Spanish. I feel like it's one of the sexiest languages in the world.
I agree, yeah.
What kind of traveler are you? Like, are you a backpacker? Are you leisure?
So I did like the majority of my traveling in my life in like last year when I was in Spain.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was like budget traveling, so like staying in hostels, taking Ryanair, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not like a huge planner. Like, I want to know generally, like, the top places to see or, like the food that I should try. But I know a lot of my friends are like, okay, like, here's our itinerary. And I'm like, nah, like, Tuesday, well, let's, like, try to hit up this place and, like, leave room for walking around, like, finding out about other places to see from people that we meet or things like that. So,
yeah.
One thing that I realize is that it's sometimes, like, your friends who you want to travel with have just, like, totally different traveling styles than you, and so it's, like, you need to work hard to find somebody who you both, like to be with and who has the same traveling style.
Yeah.
Yeah. But one of my backpacking experiences was doing the Camino in Spain.
Shut up.
I only did the last 100 kilometers, so I didn't do the whole thing.
Okay.
I want to go back and do the whole thing, so...
I do too!
Girl, let's go.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I want to go, yeah.
I bought a backpack 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Just for the Camino.
Really?
And I haven't gone yet.
I feel like, I recommend it to everyone. Like, so I did it for, like, a number of reasons. I'm not, like, super high maintenance, but there are certain things that, like, I take for granted that I, like, need. Yeah.
What are they?
Like, I'm not good at packing. I bring more options than I need, so definitely not an efficient packer, but I had to carry all my shit on my back. So, like, you better be an efficient packer or you're not gonna be able to walk fast, you're gonna slow your group down, like, and you're gonna look stupid to other pilgrims on the journey because you brought all these things you don't need. So it was an exercise in minimalism. I also, like, didn't wear makeup for 5 days, which is huge, and, like, made all these friends who, like, actually saw what my face really looks like, which, like, was a good reflection on, like, vanity and beauty and what is considered beautiful and things like that, and just becoming comfortable in my own skin. Yeah. And I love the solitariness of being just alone in nature. It felt like a Thoreau moment in some ways. I did it with a friend, but, like, some days we'd walk together, other days we wouldn't. And so... Like
you guys would walk, one person would be in front, one person...
Yeah, exactly. So, like, we'd agree to meet in a town, but we wouldn't be walking alongside each other.
Yeah.
And then it was also beautiful to see how you could connect so easily with people that were strangers, because we're all on the same road. And as cheesy as the metaphor is, like, it is a metaphor for life. Like, we're all moving along this journey.
Yeah.
But we rarely feel connected to the people around us who are also just out there living.
So when you were doing the Camino, were there a lot of people walking at the same time as you were?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Rarely would you be alone for stretches.
Okay.
And... yeah, on our second night there, we met this, like, group of young people who ended up sort of being, like, our Camino family for the next 4 days, so that was really beautiful. Yeah.
Damn, yeah.
Gotta do it.
Is there like one thing, because I know you mentioned about time management.
Yeah.
Let me give an example of myself right now. So like one is like I am my Myers-Briggs. My Myers-Briggs is ENTJ.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And especially, like, I'm a heavy J.
Okay.
For the most part, I plan a lot of things. Like,
yeah.
Sheena, sometimes she'll be like, I wait for you to, like, contact me because I know you have, like, an idea in mind.
Sure.
And I was like, yes, I get it. I want to be able to kind of, like, let go a little bit. So it used to be, like, in one day, I'll plan, like, 5 different things.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
And slowly, I'm, like, going down to, like, just have 2 things.
Sure.
Like, that's the one thing that I really want to work on. But I also really want to work on meeting people, just like going up to them firsthand.
Okay, cool.
And that's
like at parties or
like anywhere. Like I've done some traveling on my own before.
Wow.
And I've stayed at hostels, but I didn't talk to anybody because I was like terrified.
Sure. Yeah.
I was terrified. And so like that's something like I want to be able to reach out to strangers and just there's no stakes.
Yeah, you really don't lose. I mean, especially if you're like in a hostel, like you're totally safe. It's not like going up to a random person on the street. Yeah. Like, yeah.
So like those are like the 2 things that I really want to work on. Like, what about yours? Besides time management.
Time management. So this is both like in my dating life and I think in my friendships, but I feel like this sounds, I don't know what it's gonna sound like, but I'm like a pretty empathetic person and want to understand like why people believe the things that they do, and I like listen first before responding, but it leads to me not being discerning. So I'll go on a first date with someone and like they'll do most of the talking, and it's because I'm like asking them a bunch of questions and listening too much and like not really sharing about myself.
Yeah.
And I'll end up thinking that like the date went really well and like the other person will concur, but I'm not being critical of like, are we actually compatible, or like were the things you actually said interesting? Like I'm just listening to like be a good conversation partner.
Yeah.
So I want to like get clarity around like what I want out of romantic relationships and also around friendships.
Yeah.
And make sure that I'm actually getting those things.
We've talked for like a long time.
Wow, yeah, it's been like 2 hours.
Do you have any final thoughts?
I just want to say thank you, Juliet, for doing this, and you're an inspiration to me, and all the work you put into this blog, and just like your energy and your amiableness. So
I want to thank you too.
Yeah.
And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. There's a saying in Chinese. It's called let me tell you the story.
Probably hard to translate.
Yeah. It's about this frog who like lives in a well.
Yeah.
And one day the frog leaves the well.
Yeah.
And is just like astounded by how big the world is.
Yeah.
And I feel like before meeting you and like Jess Beck and like Sheena, I was that frog in that well. And I think it's partly is because of my traditional Asian family, where like there were so many topics that were taboo.
Yeah.
And that I was never comfortable talking about. And then even just like every time we hang out together with, you know, the group of girls, and listening to you guys talk about all these things, it just expands my mind, and I wanna thank you for being a part of that.
Thanks, Juliet. And like I think that's like one of the most beautiful things about relationships, is that with each friend they open the world up a little bit more for you. And I get that from you as well. Like I'm not joking when I say that being around you is inspiring, and like the amount of effort you put into your blog and you put into your relationships, and I'm just excited to get to know you even further, and I feel like we did that today.
I think so too.
Yeah. Yay!
All right. We're gonna put it out. And now we're gonna go make it mac and cheese. So
I'm excited. We need to eat after all that talking.
Yeah.